She hated all men, but he wasn't like the others. Small prison cell was cold and dark. Stone walls, metal door, and only one small light above her head. She sat in the corner, knees to her chest, arms wrapped around them. Her eyes were always watching, always afraid. She had stopped crying days ago, maybe weeks. She had no idea how long she had been in this place. The humans had taken her from her village during the war. They said it was for peace, but all she had seen was fire, screams, and blood. And all the people who heard her were men, human men. So now, she hated them all. The door opened. Her heart jumped. She didn't look up. She didn't want to see another male face. She had learned that when they came in, pain followed, but this time, the steps were slow, no shouting, no anger, just the soft sound of boots against the metal floor. She looked through her long hair. A human stood there, holding a food tray. He didn't move closer. He placed the tray near the door and stepped back. "You can eat," he said quietly. She didn't answer. Didn't move. Was this a trick? He didn't wait. He simply turned and left, the door closing behind him. The next day, he came again. Same tray, same soft steps. Again, he said nothing harsh. Again, he placed the food and left. She still didn't eat, not in front of him. She waited hours. When the silence returned, she crawled forward and smelled the food. It wasn't poisoned. It was warm, simple rice and beans, nothing fancy, but not the kind of food torturers gave. She ate slowly, carefully, still watching the door. The third day, he returned. This time, she looked at him clearly. He was younger than most soldiers. Maybe 25, clean face, no scars. His eyes didn't burn like the others. They looked tired, but not angry. "My name is David," he said. "I don't want to hurt you." She flinched when he spoke. The name meant nothing to her. She stayed silent. He gave a small smile. It was the kind of smile someone gives to a scared animal in the forest, soft, patient. "You don't have to talk," he said. "I'll come back tomorrow." He left again. For days, this continued. Food, silence, soft words. He never asked questions, never shouted, never touched her. One day, he brought a blanket, folded and clean. He placed it on the floor near the tray. "It gets cold at night," he said. She stared at him, eyes full of confusion and fear. "Why?" she finally whispered. He looked surprised. It was the first time she had spoken. "Why?" "What?" he asked gently. "Why are you being nice?" Her voice cracked. It was dry, unused. He sat down on the floor near the door, but not close to her. "Because you've been through enough," he said. "Not all humans are the same." Her hands shook. "All the men I met hurt me, burned my home, killed my sister." His eyes dropped to the floor. He didn't try to defend anyone, didn't give excuses. He just said, "I'm sorry." Silence filled the room again. But this time, it was different. Not sharp, not heavy, soft, almost peaceful. That night, she didn't scream in her sleep. For the first time, days turned into weeks. She still didn't trust him fully. How could she? Her heart had been broken too many times. But now, when he entered the room, she didn't look away. Sometimes he brought small things, a wooden spoon, a tiny book, even a flower. One time, "I found it near the training yard," he said, holding out a yellow flower with a smile. "It reminded me of sunlight. Figured you don't get much of that in here." She took it slowly, carefully. It was the first time she touched anything he gave directly. She held the flower to her nose. It had a soft, sweet smell. Memories rushed back of her home before the war, of her sister laughing in the garden. She closed her eyes, just for a second. And when she opened them, he was still there, watching her with gentle eyes, not judging, not laughing, just waiting. Every time he left, she felt something strange in her chest, not fear, not anger, something else, something soft. But in the back of her mind, a voice still whispered, "What if he's pretending? What if it's all a lie?" Still, she held the flower tightly. She didn't throw it away. Maybe, just maybe, not all humans were monsters, and maybe not all men. He spoke gently, and it confused her. She didn't sleep much that night. The flower lay on the floor beside her blanket, its petals half closed, like it was trying to protect itself, just like her. She stared at the metal door, expecting it to open with screams, with boots stomping in, with rough hands grabbing her again. But nothing came, only silence, only memories. The next morning, she woke to soft humming. She jumped, her heart racing. David was already in the room, but something was different today. He wasn't holding food. He wasn't standing still. He was sitting cross-legged near the door, with a small black device in his hands. It played music, soft, strange, human music. She pressed herself against the wall, eyes wide. He looked up and smiled. "Sorry," he said. "Didn't mean to scare you. I just thought maybe the silence is worse." She didn't answer. Music. Was this another trick? This song, he continued, was my mother's favorite. She used to sing it when I was scared. He paused. "I thought maybe you're scared too." She blinked slowly. No one had ever admitted that before. Not even her own people. Fear was weakness, but David wasn't afraid to say it. He wasn't like the others, not just the soldiers, not even like her kind. After a few minutes, he stood up and placed a thin silver sheet on the floor. I brought you a translator patch, he said. You can stick it behind your ear. It'll help you understand me better, and if you speak, I can understand you too. She didn't move. He stepped back and sat down again. The silence stretched like glass ready to shatter. Finally, she crawled forward slowly. Like a hunted animal, her hand hovered over the device. He didn't speak, didn't move, he just watched. Calmly. She picked it up. The patch was light, cool to the touch. She stuck it behind her ear. A soft vibration, then silence again. And then his voice, now clearer in her language. Better? She nodded. And that one small nod changed everything. For the next 3 days, they spoke, not much. Not fast, just simple things. She asked his name again. He told her, David Marshall. From a place called Utah. It's on Earth. She didn't know what Utah meant, or Earth. He showed her pictures from a small device, trees, rivers, blue sky. Animals she had never seen before. This is my home, he said softly. We don't have war there anymore, but your people started it, she said. Your soldiers burned everything. He lowered his eyes. Not all of us wanted the war. Most of us didn't even know why it started. Only the generals did, and the rich. She stared at him. You don't follow your leaders? He laughed, not loud, not mocking, just sad. Not when they're wrong. On the 5th day, everything changed. David came in late, his face bruised, his lip bleeding. She stood up in shock. What happened? She asked, before she could stop herself. It's nothing, he muttered, placing the tray down. I said something I shouldn't have. You fought with your own people. I said you weren't a threat, that you didn't deserve to be here. She stared at him. And they hit you for that? He sat down, breathing heavily. They don't want peace, they want to break you. A long pause. Then he whispered something that made her skin crawl. They're planning to move you. Move me? She asked. To another base, far worse. They call it the cleaner station. No trials, no rights, just experiments. Her heart dropped. She had heard of that place, rumors only. Ghosts who never returned. You have 3 days, he said, his voice low, and then they'd take you. She backed away. You're warning me? He nodded. I'm not here to keep you prisoner. I'm here to get you out. Suspicion returned like a storm. Was this the real plan? Was all his kindness just a way to make her trust him before the final blow? Why? She asked, voice shaking. Why would you betray your own army for me? He looked up. His eyes, those quiet, tired eyes, were full of something she didn't understand. Pain, truth. Because when I look at you, I see my wife. That word wife, she didn't understand it. He noticed. She was my partner, my heart. We built a home together. She died when the bombs fell on our city. Humans killed her, too. She couldn't speak. He continued, voice tight. I promised her I would never let fear win again. Not in my world, not in yours. Silence filled the room. This time, it wasn't empty. It was heavy with truth. She stepped forward, just one step. She didn't know what to say. So she said the only thing that came to her mind. I don't trust you, she whispered. But I believe you mean it. David gave a small nod. That's enough, for now. That night, she didn't cry, she didn't sleep either. Her mind spun with thoughts about her sister, about home, about this strange human who spoke gently and bled for her. And for the first time, she didn't dream of escape, she dreamed of choosing to escape with him. Her chains were loosened, but not her fear. The door creaked open again. She expected the usual tray of food, maybe a kind word, maybe David's quiet smile, but this time, he wasn't holding anything. No tray, no device, no soft music, just a metal keycard and a serious face. We don't have much time, he said. Her body stiffened. What do you mean? The transfer has been approved. You're being moved tomorrow. Earlier than we thought. He stepped inside and gently held up the card. This unlocks your chains. She stood still, frozen. What are you doing? She asked, voice sharp. Giving you a choice, he said. If you want to run, we do it tonight. He knelt beside her and tapped the cuffs around her ankles. The moment his fingers touched the metal, her whole body tensed. She remembered the last time a human touched her like that. And it didn't end with freedom. He noticed her shaking hands. I won't hurt you, he said softly. You can step away while I open them. But she didn't move. Instead, she watched him closely, eyes like a hawk, heart like a storm. The cuffs clicked open. The heavy sound of metal falling to the floor felt louder than an explosion. Her feet were free for the first time in months. But freedom was not the same as safety. Why now? She asked. Why are you risking everything now? David stood up, eyes locked on hers. Because your name is not a number in a file. You're not a science project or a prisoner of war. You're a person, and people deserve choices. She looked down at her feet, thin, bruised, but steady. A strange feeling burned in her chest, something between hope and terror. He handed her a cloak. Human-made, but soft, it smelled like forest rain. You'll need this to blend in, he said. And then what? She asked. Then we sneak through the trash disposal shaft, he said. I've disabled the sensors, we'll reach the underground tunnels. My contact is waiting there with a ship. Your contact, he nodded. Not everyone in this army agrees with what they're doing. We're not alone. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe she wasn't walking into a trap. But as she followed him through the back corridors of the base, her eyes kept searching for cameras, for traps, for betrayal, and yet nothing came. They passed empty storage rooms, flickering lights, the hum of machines. Her steps were slow at first, weak and unsure. But as she moved farther from the prison cell, she felt something return to her bones. Not just strength. They reached a steel vent in the wall. David pulled it open and motioned for her to enter first. She hesitated. Her old instinct screamed, this is the moment, this is the trap. Once you're inside, he'll close it and lock it behind you. She turned to him, her voice cold. Go first. He didn't argue. He simply nodded and crawled into the dark shaft without a word, and she followed. Inside, it was silent. Dust in the air, the walls tight around them. But every foot they moved forward, she felt her chains break, not the metal ones, the ones in her mind. After crawling for several minutes, they dropped into a dark tunnel beneath the base. The air smelled like oil and fire. We're close, David said, pulling out a small light. The hatch is just ahead. They walked in silence, the only sound their footsteps echoing softly until a sound behind them, like metal being dragged. She froze. David turned sharply, his hand on a small weapon at his side. Stay behind me, he whispered. From the darkness behind them a shape appeared. A soldier, but not one of David's allies. His eyes glowed red with cyber implants. His face was cold, robotic. He wasn't here to ask questions, he was here to kill. You betrayed your post, the soldier said, and you're helping a war criminal escape. David stood firm. She's not a criminal, she's a survivor. Orders are clear, terminate both. The soldier raised his weapon. Faster than thought, David pushed her behind a pillar and opened fire. Energy blasts echoed in the tunnel. Heat, light, screams. She covered her ears and crouched, heart pounding like thunder. Then silence. When she looked up, the soldier was gone and David was bleeding. He clutched his arm, trying to stand, just a graze. He muttered. She rushed to him and tore part of her cloak to wrap around the wound. You could have left me, she whispered. I didn't want to, he replied, eyes locked on hers. You're insane, she said, voice shaking. You risked everything. He smiled weakly. Yeah, I get that a lot. They reached the hatch. A man stood waiting, gray hair, long coat, and a nervous look. You're late, the man said to David. Had company, David replied, motioning to his wound. The man glanced at the girl and frowned. Is this her? Yes, she doesn't look dangerous. She's not, David said. She's brave. The man pressed a button. A small ship uncloaked nearby. The hatch opened. But just as they were about to board, another alarm rang out. Red lights, sirens, footsteps above. The base knew they had been discovered. Go, the man yelled. I'll hold them. David grabbed her hand gently and pulled her inside the ship. As the door closed behind them, she looked back. The tunnels, the fear, the silence. She was leaving it all behind. But inside her, fear still whispered. Because freedom is never free. As the ship lifted off, David collapsed in the seat beside her. His wound worse than he admitted. She held the controls, even though she had never flown a human ship. He looked at her with a weak smile. You're stronger than they ever knew. And she looked at him, not as an enemy, not as a man, but as something different. As someone who chose to protect, not control. He showed her Earth and a future asterisk. The ship shook as it entered space. No alarms now, no chains. Just the sound of engines and silence. She sat beside David, her eyes on the stars outside the window. It was the first time she had seen them without a cage around her. They didn't look angry. They didn't look like war. They looked free. But freedom was still new, still strange, still full of fear. David lay in the back of the ship, pale and bleeding. His arm was wrapped in cloth, but it wasn't enough. He needed real help, and fast. How long? She asked the autopilot. The voice replied calmly, arrival at hidden station in 27 minutes. She had no idea what a hidden station was, but David had programmed it with trust in his voice, even when blood was in his mouth. So she trusted it. Her hands shook as she adjusted the controls. She had never flown before, but she was learning fast. David coughed. She rushed to him, holding a water pouch to his lips. Don't talk, she whispered. He gave a weak smile. You're doing better than me. You almost died. I still might, he joked, eyes closing for a second. Don't. He opened them again and looked at her, serious, soft. You're safe now. She shook her head. No, not yet. Why? She hesitated, then said the truth. Because I don't know who I am without fear. 27 minutes passed. The ship slowed outside the window. A hidden space station came into view, small, old, patched with metal pieces that didn't match a secret place. A place for those who didn't belong anywhere else. As the ship landed, two figures came out, one human, one alien. The alien had green skin, deep scars, and kind eyes. The human had no weapons, just a toolbox. They didn't ask questions. They didn't look at her with fear or anger. They simply took David inside. The alien, his name was Fen, led her to a quiet room. It had a bed, a clean floor, books, pictures of trees, and a small glass window that showed the stars. She stood there for a long time. She had never been in a room with a door she could open herself, and yet she didn't move. She didn't sleep that night. She stayed by David's side. He didn't wake up for hours. The next morning, Fen gave her food. Real food, not rations, not prison scraps. Fruit, soup, warm bread. She didn't eat at first. She was used to starving, but Fen said, eat with strength, not fear, so she did. 2 days passed. David healed slowly. On the 3rd day, he finally spoke without pain. I want to show you something, he said. He took her to the ship's lounge, where a small hologram projector sat in the middle of the room. With the press of a button, the image of Earth appeared. Green forests, mountains, blue oceans, children running across fields, animals playing in rivers, people laughing around fires. She stared at it like a dream, like something from a storybook. This is where you're from? She asked. Part of it, David said. The side they don't show during war. You live in peace. We try. We fail sometimes, but we try again. She sat down beside the image. Your world looks soft, she said. It can be, David replied. But it's also full of pain, like yours, so why show it to me? He looked at her. Because I want you to know there's something else out there, something beyond cages and orders and pain. Like what? Life. For the next few days, he showed her more. How to use tools, how to speak better English, how to fly the ship, how to trust herself. Slowly, her movements changed. She no longer flinched at every sound, no longer sat with her back to the wall, no longer ate like someone who feared it might be her last meal. She even smiled once, a small one, but real. One evening, David handed her a mirror. Do you recognize her? He asked. She looked at the face in the mirror, the same face that once stared from behind bars. But it was different now. Stronger, clearer. No, she said. But I think I like her more. And then came the message. A transmission from deep space. Fen brought it to them, looking worried. Someone's looking for her, he said. David played the recording. It wasn't a message, it was a warning. A bounty had been placed on her head, but not from the human military, from someone worse. Someone from her own side. Her heart stopped. This is my people's voice, she said. The council, they want you dead, David asked. She nodded. They think I've seen too much. I know too much, but you didn't betray them. To them, survival is betrayal. Silence. Then David said, we have to leave, now. As they packed, she looked back at the station. We can't stay anywhere, can we? Not yet, he said. How long will we run? He paused. Then gave a quiet answer. Until we stop running and start fighting back. As they boarded the ship again, David handed her something new. A data crystal. What's this? She asked. A file, he said. Proof of everything they've done, both sides, yours and mine. Where did you get this? My wife. She found it before she died. They killed her to keep it secret. She stared at the crystal like it burned. Why give it to me? Because you still have a voice, he said. And when you're ready, the universe needs to hear it. The escape plan. The stars outside the ship were no longer peaceful. They watched her like eyes. Everywhere they went, they found silence, but never safety. Their ship was old now. It rattled during jumps. One of the engines hummed too loud. The scanner always showed red dots in the corner, enemy ships, tracking signals, shadow movements. They were being hunted. Not just by humans, but by her own people too, inside the ship. David was quieter than usual. He had fixed the autopilot, rewired the fuel tank, and updated the navigation logs, all in one day. But he hadn't smiled once. She noticed. She always noticed now. What are you not telling me? She asked. He hesitated, then sighed. They've surrounded all the free zones, planets, moons, even trade posts. There's no way to hide anymore. What? About the rebels? She asked. Gone, scattered, most gave up. Some were caught, some changed sides. She leaned back in the pilot chair. Then what do we do? David looked at her. His eyes tired but clear. We fight, but smart. He pressed a button and a new star map appeared. There's one place left, an old mining moon, dead, abandoned, full of caves. But deep inside is a signal tower. A signal tower, yes, he said. A way to send a message across the galaxy, and we have something worth sending. She knew what he meant. The data crystal. The truth. About the war, the experiments, the lies told by both sides. If the galaxy heard it, everything could change. But to get there, They had to sneak through 3 war zones and survive 3 days later. They reached orbit over the mining moon. No one lived there anymore, no lights, no cities. Only rock and shadows. Perfect place for ghosts. The ship landed near a collapsed structure. Part of the mountain had swallowed the old mining tunnels. We'll go on foot from here, David said, loading a bag with supplies. How long to reach the tower? She asked. 5 kilometers. Through the caves, then up the central shaft. She nodded. Let's go. Inside the tunnels, the air was cold. Walls were cracked. Old machines rusted. The silence pressed on them like stone, but she didn't flinch anymore. She walked ahead. Her steps steady. Stop, she said suddenly, holding her hand up. David froze. What is it? Motion sensor, she whispered, hidden in the rocks. New tech, not part of this place. David scanned it with his device. She was right. A hunter drone had been buried beneath the rocks. Active. Someone's already here, David said. Not someone, she replied. They followed us. They took a new path, deeper into the caves. The light grew dim. Every sound echoed like a scream. She didn't speak much. She was thinking about how many people wanted her dead. About the faces of her sister, her village, David's wife. About how many lies were built just to keep people silent. And how close she now was to breaking all of it open. Hours passed. They reached the base of the signal tower. It was still standing, tall, ancient, and mostly working. Can you connect the crystal? She asked. David nodded, opening a panel, but as he worked, a strange sound came from the upper levels. Metal, clicking, mechanical breathing. They weren't alone. She stepped back into the shadows, pulling David with her. They're already inside, she whispered. Through the broken glass of the control room, they saw them. Elite soldiers. Not just any soldiers. Hybrids. Part human, part alien, all machine. Her kind turned into weapons by the human labs. She felt bile rise in her throat. They're guarding the tower, David whispered. They know what we're trying to do. They're not just guarding it, she said quietly. They're here for me. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the chamber. Mechanical, calm, full of poison. Subject 918X. Surrender now. Your death will be painless. She froze. 918X. That was the number they gave her in the labs. David looked at her. They know exactly who you are. Her hands curled into fists. Then they know, she whispered, that I don't run anymore. She stepped into the open, cloak flowing behind her. The hybrids turned. One aimed. To slow. She moved like lightning, grabbing a broken pipe, slamming it into the hybrid's arm. Sparks flew. Another fired a near miss. David covered her from above, using a stun pulse to fell. But more came. They kept coming. For every one that dropped, another rose from the shadows. They were faster, stronger, heartless. She was one, but not theirs. She grabbed the control lever and pulled hard. A backup power surge lit up the tower. Now, she yelled, upload the crystal. David slammed the drive into the panel. Uploading. 22%, 40%, 61%. A hybrid smashed into her, knocking her to the ground. Pain shot through her ribs. The hybrid raised its blade, but David tackled it off her. Keep going, he shouted. She pulled herself up, blood on her hands, vision blurry. Uploading. 93%, 99%, 100%. Signal sent. A high-pitched hum echoed. Then silence. The tower lights faded. The truth was out. Every corner of the galaxy now knew, but the hybrids didn't. Stop. They didn't care about truth. Only orders, and their order was to kill her. She stood between them and David, her arms spread. You want to end this? She shouted. Then take me. The hybrids paused. Then lowered their weapons. One by one. Their eyes flickered, their machines hummed, but they didn't move. David looked up. What's happening? She stepped forward, slowly. They're not following orders anymore. Why? She turned, eyes wide, because they heard the message too. Betrayal or sacrifice. The transmission spread faster than anyone expected. Planets on both sides of the war received it. Screens flashed red, then blue, then white. Files opened, recordings played, secret camps, torture labs, commanders from both species giving orders to kill, to silence, to erase truth. People watched in silence. Then in shock. Then enraged. But deep inside the old mining moon, she wasn't celebrating. She sat beside David, wrapping his shoulder wound with fresh bandages. His hands were trembling, not from pain. From something worse. It's out there now, he said quietly. The truth, finally. Yes, she said, but that doesn't mean they'll believe it. Some won't, he admitted, but others will. Revolutions start with less. She stood up and looked at the motionless hybrids who had once tried to kill her. Now they were silent. Some were sitting, some still stood, confused. Their programming had cracked under the truth. What will they do now? She asked. Wait, David said. Follow, maybe even choose. Choose what? Freedom. They buried the dead outside the cave. Enemy or not, David said everyone deserved peace in the end. Even those who hurt us? She asked. Especially them, he said, or the hate never ends. She wasn't sure if she agreed. But she helped dig anyway. Later that night, as they made camp, something strange happened. She was watching the stars, thinking about her sister's voice when her earpiece crackled. A signal, but not from the hybrids. Not from the humans. It was her own people, a voice smooth, calm, dangerous echoed in her ear. Subject 918X, you have made your point, your pain has been witnessed, your voice has been heard. She stood up slowly, eyes locked on the darkness, but you are not the only one with secrets. We know where you are, we could destroy that moon. In one shot, but we will not, we offer you a choice. What choice? She whispered, come back. Surrender, allow us to say the message was false, a lie born from trauma, you will live. We will call you healed, her breath caught, or refuse. And we send your sister's real killer to find you, and he will not be merciful. She dropped the earpiece like it burned. What was that? David asked, coming closer. She didn't answer right away, her hands were shaking. Finally, she looked him in the eyes. They offered me safety. If I lie, what? They want me to say it was all fake. The recordings, the pain, you, everything, and if you don't, her voice cracked. They said they'll release the one who killed my sister. David's face went pale. They're using her against you, yes, are you thinking about going back? She didn't answer because in her heart, for one brief second, she had thought about it. About the silence, about no more running, about being safe even if it meant pretending the truth never happened. That night, she couldn't sleep. David didn't speak again. He just sat near the edge of the rocks, looking up at the stars like he was searching for someone. She sat away from him because the guilt was already growing inside her. And then just before sunrise it happened. An explosion ripped through the cave entrance. Dust, fire, screams. The hybrids inside scattered. David shouted, get down. But she was already running toward the source. Smoke filled her lungs. Shadows moved in the light. And out of the fire walked him. The one she had seen only once before, on the day her village died. The day her sister screamed, then vanished in the flames. His armor was dark red. His eyes were cold, hollow. And around his neck hung the pendant her sister once wore. She froze, her feet would not move. He walked straight toward her, not even raising a weapon. You remember me, he said. Voice deep and cruel. Where is she? She whispered. Double quotes gone. You killed her? He tilted his head. Depends how you define death. Maybe I turned her into something better. Rage surged through her like lightning. She launched herself at him faster than thought. He blocked her first strike, but not the second. Her blade sliced across his side. He didn't cry out. He smiled. Good, fight me. Show them what kind of monster you really are. She hit him again and again, but the more she fought, the more the hybrids began to stir again, to step toward her. Confused. Unsure. And he spoke louder. Look at her, he shouted. Is this your hero? A killer? A weapon? Her breath came fast. Her hands shook. But then another voice rang out. Not loud. Not harsh. Just steady. David's. She's not the weapon, he said. You are. The killer turned, ready to strike. But David didn't back down. She's more than any of you ever understood. Because she survived and still chose to protect. She's broken. The killer spat. We're all broken, David said. But she rebuilt herself without turning cruel. That makes her stronger than you ever were. The killer moved fast. But she moved faster. Her blade cut deep this time, not just flesh, armor. His knees buckled. She stepped back, breathing hard, but she didn't finish him. Why stop? He hissed. Do it, be like me. She stared at him. Then dropped the weapon. You don't deserve my rage, she said, and I don't need your death to win. He fell to the ground, coughing. And the hybrids? They walked past him. Not to attack, but to stand beside her. One by one, David walked to her side. She was shaking. Not from fear. From release. She believed again the fire was out. The air was full of smoke, but no more screams. No more running. No more orders. Just silence and choice. She stood in the center of the cave, surrounded by the quiet breathing of the hybrids. Some still had blood on their hands. Others looked like children in bodies too big for their minds. None of them moved without her. Not anymore. David leaned against the rock wall, watching her. His arm was bandaged again, his face bruised. But he smiled because he saw something in her that she didn't see in herself yet. Leadership. Light. A human ship landed just outside the mountain cave. Not a warship. A broadcast vessel, civilian, full of journalists, messengers, rebel sympathizers. They had received her signal and they had come. The galaxy wanted answers and all eyes were on her. They gave her a platform, a camera, a microphone, but she didn't use any of them. Instead, she stepped outside and stood under the sky, dirty, cracked, but free. And she spoke. Not with technology, not with polished words, just with truth. My name is not 918X, she said. Her voice carried through every translator, every screen. I had a name once, they took it from me. They took everything. She paused. The wind caught her cloak. They said I was a danger, too emotional, too wild, too alien to trust. But I never wanted war. I wanted to live, to laugh, to see my sister grow. Her voice shook. But she kept going. They burned my home. They blamed the other side, but both were guilty. They lied to you. She turned slowly, facing the camera now. You were lied to by your leaders, and I was lied to by mine. But today, I don't stand here as a victim. I stand as a survivor, and I offer you a choice: not to follow me, not to fight for me, but to stop. Stop being weapons. Stop choosing fear. Stop believing that one kind must destroy the other. The war was never ours. It was given to us, taught to us, forced on us. She stepped forward. But peace, that has to be chosen. Silence followed, the kind that bends time. Even the stars seemed to hold their breath. And then something no one expected. One by one, hybrids dropped their weapons. Humans watching through the feed began turning off their orders. Alien commanders afraid of revolts deactivated their control codes. On 1,000 ships, soldiers of both sides paused, as if waking from a deep sleep. David walked beside her. You've done it, he said. She shook her head. No, I only opened the door. They're the ones walking through it. Hours later, rebel ships arrived, not to arrest, not to fight, but to protect. To offer safety, to offer supplies, to offer peace talks. Something had cracked in the galaxy. The truth had become heavier than the lies. But peace is not a perfect ending. It is not clean. Not quiet. Because even as leaders were arrested and secret camps were shut down, there were still those who whispered, she's dangerous, she's just another weapon in disguise. And so, the council offered her something strange: a seat. David told her, on the Unity board, to help rebuild. She said nothing at first. Just stared at the galaxy map on the screen. Finally, she answered. Double quotes. No. David blinked. What? I don't want to lead from a chair. I want to walk among the ones who still suffer, the ones whose homes didn't survive. He smiled. So you'll be the ghost that builds peace from the shadows? She smiled too, softly. No, not a ghost. She walked into the hangar. The hybrids followed her, not as guards, not as soldiers, but as survivors learning what it meant to be free. And when the last door closed behind her, she felt it. Not fear, not anger, but something else. Purpose. They flew to broken planets. They helped rebuild. They dug graves with their own hands. They stopped battles before they started. No armies, no medals. Just presence, truth, and listening. One day, on a moon where a child offered her half a fruit and thanks, she turned to David and said, do you think the galaxy can heal? He didn't answer with words. He just pointed to the child. That was the answer. Years passed. Stories spread, not of war, but of her. The girl who flinched at kindness, until it taught her how to be strong. The hybrid leader who laid down her blade and lifted others instead. The voice that couldn't be silenced even by death. And sometimes, in quiet corners of the galaxy where fear still ruled, someone would whisper, don't be afraid. She walked through fire and she came back holding light. Final lines: cinematic, emotional, complete. She had been a number, a prisoner, a victim. But she chose to become a voice, a shield, a spark, and wherever that spark landed, hope began to grow again.